Hello there, it's Josh here from Racing to Profit and the Racing to Profit Syndicates with a preview of the 235 from Southwell, where Shandancer makes his debut for us and for our syndicate. There'll be 16, 17 owners trackside, and provided that he comes home safe, it promises to be an exciting day. What can I tell you about Shandancer? Obviously, we'd like to think he was a value purchase from Ireland. The idea was that Amy Murphy would transform him and improve him massively from what he'd shown in Ireland. And so far, so good based on his homework. That looks to be the case. He arrived at Amy's lacking condition. And she's worked wonders with him. I think he's eating a lot more. He has muscle where it should be, and he is slowly but surely coming out of his shell and into himself and showing his personality at home, getting on very well with his regular work rider Evie. He has been breezing alongside and past, I believe, everything that Amy has worked alongside him in the last 2-3 weeks when he's been doing faster work. She's very happy with how he's been going, and we'd like to think if he repeats his homework on course, which is always a question, of course, then he is going to run a big race, and I would like to think he's going to go close. I'll go into a bit more detail on him in a moment. For those who maybe can't be bothered to watch the whole of this video, as yet I'm not sure how long it will go on for. The dangers look to be Mrs. Grimley. A big run from her and performance, and necessarily a win wouldn't be a shock. Red Dirt Road for John Joes, who I'll touch on. Amy's other runner, Daniel Deronda, who they really do like as a racehorse. I'll touch on him in a moment. The main reason for Jack, who did have the choice to ride Daniel Deronda or Shandancer, is because Jack has put a lot of work into this horse. He's off the flat. He's been very, very keen, including when last seen, but Jack's slowly been trying to teach him how to settle and how to become a hurdler. The fear, I think, from Jack's perspective, if another jockey jumps on, there's a chance, if well, he's a horse that needs knowing really, and there's a chance that he could blow a gasket and undo all of the work that Jack has put in. They do like him as a horse. His run here a couple of starts ago was decent actually, but I will touch on him a bit more as well. I think they're the four, although it's a maiden hurdle, of course. Horses can improve greatly for jumping a hurdle, especially if running in National Hunt flat races. They can improve massively from one run to the next as they build up more experience. So there's a chance. I haven't mentioned the winner there, of course, but I thought the rest of them had a fair few more questions than those four mentioned. I am bullish of a big run from Shandancer. Of course, it is his first hurdle start. He has been schooling well at home, has been jumping well, but of course, when you're in and around 14 other horses and you're going at kind of race pace, and then you're asked to quicken in the final kind of half mile or so, and really speed up and run your race and jump at speed, that's when we find out a lot more. So with any luck, he takes to it and jumps well. He's clearly, he's fit enough to go close here, I think. Amy, because of the state that he arrived in the yard, which he didn't look great, which is one of the kind of ways in, I suppose, and reason we try and find these horses and buy them and send them to decent trainers such as Amy to improve them. But yeah, one of the reasons why he may come on for it is Amy has left condition on him because he took so long, or Amy's put a lot of work in building him up and kind of putting some meat on the bones, for want of a better phrase. So he will come on for whatever he does here, but from what we've seen, I think he's definitely fit enough to do himself justice and go close if good enough. And of course, any horse, like I said, is going to improve mentally and with technique when it comes to hurdling from one start to the next. But hopefully, he runs a decent race. Before touching a bit more, I will just zip along to the pace map. Most of these have run a handful of times already, so we've got a rough idea of how the race may take shape. it's not impossible. Shandancer has raced prominently in, or did race prominently in his some of his races back in Ireland. He's been showing plenty of zip and plenty of toe at home, so much so that Amy is keen to run him on the flat next season as well, because she thinks he's showing enough pace, possibly for that discipline as well, kind of over 1 mile 6. Um, which is exciting, but I don't think he'll lack the pace here necessarily to get a good early position. You can see generally that it pays to be prominent. I mean, the excellent Gigi's Gold and Gigi's race cards, as always with these videos, it generally pays to be prominent on this kind of ground over this distance around this course. So the fact that he might be able to jump out and pop along is maybe not impossible, given the amount of experience that he has, which is a fair bit more than some of these as well, that he is able to lead and actually dictate, especially with a horse jumping for the first time. I would prefer them to have clean air and be nearer the further forward and further back, with kind of nothing in front of them bar the obstacles. So hopefully he kind of gets a good position, jumps out and keeps going. Amy, with the inexperienced horses, does tend to like them to be up sides, especially inexperienced jumpers, and to have company as they approach their first few flights. So yeah, but he should be able to jump off there, and we'll see what goes with him. Maybe his stablemate will track him and they'll be lobbing along together. But you can see that if a lot of these horses run in the same style they have done, or similar style to recent starts, there's quite a few in mid-division, a few further back. Red Dirt Road has only run an Irish Point. That was over 3 miles. If he is here ready to go and does have ability and class and the pace for this sort of trip, he could bomb out prominent as well. That wouldn't be a shock. And Mrs. Grimley, with her experience, may actually be a bit further forward as well, I suspect. But on the pace map side, lots of positives there for Shandancer as well. As obviously those of you who have shares in him listening to this know, when you're spending 10,000, 10 to 20,000 on a racehorse, he cost us 10 in a private deal, sourced by a good friend who has contacts in the Irish, British, French racing scene. Their old connections weren't too keen to send him hurdling or jumping, mainly because they wanted their son to ride him, and I believe, from what I've been told, he didn't really want to ride over hurdles or fences, and they didn't want anyone else on, and they decided to sell him. I don't think he was that well trained, if I'm being blunt. That was half the reason for kind of diving in. The trainer's record and stats generally poor, even more so in National Hunt flat races. He was ridden by amateurs most of the time, especially last few starts, their son, and you can watch the videos and make your own judgment on the riding ability, but I didn't think it was that great. I don't think he was ever that fit, and I don't think he was possibly ever fed properly in terms of for exerting maximum energy on a race course and in a race of this nature. That's a different. I'm not saying he wasn't fed in terms of a welfare perspective. That certainly wasn't the case. But I think more could arguably have been done to add condition and to kind of put strength where it should be. But that is one of the ways in, if you make a judgment on training ability, of course, and some, quite frankly, are better than others. And Amy is one of the best, as evidenced by what she certainly does at the top level already, a Grade 1 winning trainer over jumps. So yeah, the thinking was he would improve massively. Yet, despite all those negatives that I've just said, he did run some big races. He ran big race Killarney here. Often he would travel well and then was outpaced. He looked like a horse that would certainly improve or do well for jumping. And possibly up in trip in time. There's a chance this is sharp enough. Like I said, he's shown enough speed, but a chance 2.5 might unlock a bit more. But he's shown plenty of ability, finished in the first kind of 5 or 6, 4, 5, 6 in kind of big field Irish National Hunt flat races, bumping into a few Elliott Mullins machines as well at times. But in most of these races, there have been subsequent winners. He's been in and around subsequent winners. This Judicial Law that won here, Shandancer was staying on here. John Joe O'Neill then purchased this one and he is now rated. He's won a couple of hurdles with him. He's now rated in the mid 120s. So that gave us some confidence. Dr. Newland won one that was around, bought one that was around him in this Cork race, I think, or possibly Spallenroe, who then won two over National Hunt Flat, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we're trying to find improvement for not spending much money for all those reasons stated. A kind of trainer upgrade, the horse being given more time, and actually, I'd like to think he'll improve just for being ridden by a professional jockey as well. You can see here, plenty of these races have produced the odd winner here and there. He's certainly shown enough ability in those National Hunt Flat races, and he's certainly shown enough ability at home for us to think that he could shape into a kind of 120, 125, or hopefully higher rated handicap hurdler in time. He is here to run his race. He is here to win, and like I said, I think he's fit enough to do justice as well. So I will be very nervous watching him, as I always are with our horses, but especially one making a hurdling debut, and ultimately when I made a decision to stump up the cash and purchase him, and yeah, to make that final decision. But from it, like I said, everything we've seen, or my judgment on those runs in Ireland where he showed plenty, travelled really well, outpaced, then stayed on under kind of inadequate riding. And for those other reasons stated, there's every reason now that he is fitter, he's stronger, he is looks happier in himself, his confidence, how he carries himself, how he's been working at home, who he's been working against, how he's been asked to quicken and kind of go past other horses. He has shown enough to suggest he has ability, and we are going to have plenty of fun with him. The question and the excitement, as was always the case in this horse racing game, is to what level will he achieve. Obviously, I would take wins. I think any of his owners would take wins at any level, to be honest, as anyone would in any share in a racehorse, because when they win and when they pass that post in front, it's so exciting. You don't really care what level, but part of the excitement and the dream, of course, is to have hopes and expectations of what they might become and the level they might achieve. So this is his first day out for us. Hopefully a big run, fingers crossed, incoming. You can see here Amy's done well recently actually with improving horses from other yards. She gets them plenty fit enough if they want to. He has done enough work, as I said. So as I tick round to 12 minutes, that's kind of a rough overview, a quick overview, and a bit more thoughts and depth on Shandancer. Hopefully he bounces out prominently, jumps well, travels really well. Obviously, always on their first start after 200 days, they can be a bit keen, they can be a bit fresh. There's a chance that maybe he does a bit too much, as can always be the case with a young horse. Hopefully not, though, because he's got enough experience and he raced perfectly well in Ireland, settled, travelled well, found for pressure, and did look like a trier and a terrier and a bit of a scrapper. So yes, exciting, an exciting day ahead. Now, who could he bump into as I tick round to 30 minutes? I think I've said enough on Shan. He has the ability, I think, to win a race like this. But will he bump into something? And of course, will he run his race? But fingers crossed he does. But yes, who could he bump into? Ben Pauling is in mad form. 6 from 20, 11 places the last 14 days. There's clearly going to be no issues there. He's just been transformed. All of his horses seem to have been transformed since he moved yards, changed gallops, etc. Trainer and jockey have a great record around Southwell in the last year. Mrs. Grimley ran in a Class 2 hurdle last time, won by one of Amy's, actually Carol's Pass, who's a decent mare. She has form from winning a National Hunt Flat race here in May. That hasn't worked out too well. Some of the form bit so-so. You can see here actually as a comparison, the Racing Post rating was 100 for this winning performance in a National Hunt Flat. Just as an example, Shandancer, before his final start, when he was held up out the back and not given much of a chance, was consistently getting marks, scores, Racing Post ratings in the mid-90s, which are solid for National Hunt Flat races. Again, that was another point of interest when making the decision to purchase him. So yeah, so he put some decent numbers there. Obviously, on that particular evidence scale, Mrs. Grimley did slightly better, and of course won that National Hunt Flat there. and had run well, but similar scores in Ireland. So it might be that we're quite closely matched with her. I don't know. She travelled well. This was her first start since May. She travelled well, headway to 3 out, pushed along. I think ran as if needing it, possibly outclassed, possibly outpaced. Maybe she might need further than this 2 miles, but I think she should run well, and should be bang there. And I suspect she'll be fairly high up in the market, I'd have thought. Red Dirt Road ran once in an Irish point, won once. Adam Norman tells me, he gets various different private ratings from different sources, says that the kind of speed figure and the numbers that he did in this point were very, very good, and marked this one down as possibly or potentially a decent horse, certainly on what he did there. I've looked at the form of that point, and there were some decent horses in and around. There's one I think that Michael Scudamore has kind of hacked up the last twice over hurdles over here, kind of posting racing post ratings in the 130s. This horse could be decent. John Joe's in form. He can clearly ready them. He'll stay further, which makes me think they'll be aggressive. That point win was over 3 miles. Will he have the pace for 2 mile maiden hurdle around Southwell? Will they try and negate that by being aggressive? Will he be fit? Will he be ready? All those sorts of questions. I don't know how much they paid for him. I think it was in a private sale. I should think a chunk, as any Irish point winner goes for. But yeah, he is interesting. Of some interest, I suppose, when I was looking to try and find holes. John Joe, as yet, doesn't have a great record at the course in. In non-handicap hurdles, he's won from 16 in the last 5 years. If I, won from 16 in non-handicap hurdles here in the last 5 years. Over the distance, that's what I was going to look at. 0 from 9 over the distance. All hurdles here, 1 from 22 in the last 5 years. So maybe he does send some more of his kind of staying prospects here and kind of gives them a nice introduction. And he may just like this hurdles track and like the fixed brush hurdles and so on. But if I suspect he might be put in at a fairly short price, and no shock if he runs a big road. And actually, coming second or in and around Red Dirt Road or Mrs. Grimley, given some of their former performances, wouldn't be a bad thing at all, actually. Neither would it be for Amy's other horse, Daniel Deronda. She really does like him as a horse. He hasn't shown anywhere near his potential. He's already got a an official rating of 106. Amy thinks he is much better than that. His problem is he just needs to learn to settle. She says he's best on decent ground. If this should be okay for him, there's a chance it's slightly too soft, but possibly not. He's had a wind up which may have made a difference. If he bounces out and settles, this form here of his, he's got experience of this course and distance. He ran well twice here. This was a decent run in April where again he was a bit too keen. It has produced a fair few subsequent winners. He did show ability on the flat. He stayed on Huntington. There's a chance actually that he wants a bit further on my own assessment. And I wouldn't be shocked if Shandancer settles a bit better and has a bit more pace than him turning for home, but I could be very wrong there. He's shown some okay fair ability before. Whatever does here, he is one for your notebook, because as soon as he learns to use himself better and to distribute his energy better through a race, and as soon as he learns to settle, he is going to leave that rating behind, especially when put back in a handicap, maybe over a bit further as well. So Daniel Deronda's one to keep an eye on. Maybe it will be a Southgate Stables, Amy Murphy, 1-2 in a certain order, Daniel Deronda, Shandancer, who knows. I don't believe they've worked up alongside each other. So I can't give you any kind of information on that front. So yeah, those are the four as I tick round to 90 minutes. Some of these others, like I said, it's a maiden hurdle. Keithy does well here. This one, again, if just comparing those racing post ratings in National Hunt flat races, especially there, to what Shandancer has done, a bit better there, some of the form, but he goes hurdling here and may well enjoy it and have a good time. Had a bit of a break. He's only 4, may well have strengthened up as well. Bobby Socks looks like he's running for a handicap mark to my eyes, has done nothing much the last twice. I don't know where a better performance comes from here, but he did show ability in National Hunt flat races. Suggest he's going to do something at some point. Is it when he goes handicapping? Is it when stepped up in trip from a low mark? Possibly. He could be one to keep an eye on. Charging Point again hasn't really shown much. Third run over hurdles. I suspect no official rating as yet. Is this for a handicap mark? I would like to think so. Again, another 4-year-old. Maybe he wants a bit further as well. But again, he showed some ability in National Hunt flat races, some okay RPRs. Even though some of the form looks a bit so-so. The Skelton horse again, another one, third start over hurdles without an official rating. He looks a bit tricky. He jumps ponderously at times. He looks a bit keen. He was outpaced, stayed on there. He's one where the penny hasn't really dropped as yet. Again, he has shown some ability. If he learns to settle and he jumps better, I suspect he has ability, and the Skeltons will get it out of him. That could be in this race, but he has a few questions after the last couple of starts for me. It looks like they're still trying to teach him how to be a racehorse. This one makes his first start over hurdles and jumps. Been on the flat. He is 0 from 19 in his career to date. Is clearly tricky to win with. Will he stay? Will he jump? Will he settle? Who knows? Roger Teal, not a great record at Southwell, 0 from 30 in the last 5 years. That's over all codes, I should think. 0 from 18 and kind of 2-mile jump speedy races. So a question there, but could be anything in the sense that he's off the flat. He may well now actually just relish going hurdling and improve bundles just for having something to do and something to think about, and jumping and running over further. It'll be interesting what the market makes of him. The Skiffle King for Pogson, he hasn't really shown much on the last few starts to date. I don't know where a big performance comes from in terms of to trouble some of these, but again, you never know. He may well strip a lot fitter for that Newcastle effort. He's going to possibly show more at some point. We shall see. Maybe he's running for a mark as well. Beer in hand didn't show much last time, but that was his first ever career start, I think. Could take a big jump forward. The trainer stats so. He needs more, I think. The Dan Skelton, Bridget Andrews. You would think Harry had the choice, but again, that might be that Harry still wants to teach his horse how to be a racehorse. Bridget Andrews is more than capable, of course. He only had one start here. That race hasn't worked out too well. Goes hurdling now, up in class, first run 355 days. It's a Skelton horse, I should think, fairly well bred, of course. Yeah, looks decent enough, especially from these connections. So, yeah, interesting. That's a could be anything one. Blue Bubbles hasn't shown enough yet, but could take massive strides forward here today. The Ollie Williams horse hasn't done much either in 2 starts here. You would think up against it, certainly hasn't shown enough for any confidence. Could take a massive step forward, as I suppose could the Mickey Hammond horse. One from the flat, didn't do much in France, hasn't done much in a couple, well, I think had 4 runs over hurdles, already has a rating of 105. So interesting that they're not going into handicaps, but maybe just trying to give this one more jumping experience, teach him how to settle. He has a few too many questions for me. Mickey generally doesn't do well at the course, and nor on their second start. But yeah, some questions there. But again, has a rating of 105. So Daniel Toronto with 106, More Joy with 105. At least you can kind of rate some performances around them if they run their race, of course. So yes, with that said, hopefully I've said something useful, informative. I know it's 23 minutes long for those of you who have persevered to the end. Thank you very much. Yeah, hopefully that's useful. And yeah, hopefully Shandancer runs a big race. I am sending this video out far and wide. We do still have a few shares available in Shan. Maybe you're going to watch and wait to see what he does in this race or on his next few starts. But he is going to give us a lot of fun, and we have a lot of fun on the racecourse, and you'll have a lot of fun as part of the growing Racing the Profit Syndicate family. So yeah, have a think. If you're watching this on YouTube or from my emails, you can click the link below to find out more, and do get in touch if you fancy joining the Racing to Profit Syndicate revolution. But for now, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please do cheer on Shandancer from wherever you may be watching. I will not put you off an each way bet as I speak. I have no idea what odds is going to be. There was nothing formed on the market when I started recording this video. But yeah, we expect him to run his race, and we shall have some fun and excitement finding out what that means in the context of this particular race and these opposition here. But we will learn plenty about him, and we're sure to have a great day out. So yeah, thanks for watching. Best of luck if having a little go or on something else I've mentioned in this race. And yeah, thanks for watching. Speak soon.